to people that are like a YouTuber that goes to China and says, hey, everything's great. The other option is what Lenin called useful idiots. The per capita, right? The per capita GDP of Taiwan is 3 times that of China.
Yes.
Taiwan is much more economically successful, actually.
Do you think the CCP is the biggest threat to America today?
I think the CCP is the biggest threat to the world today. I think the CCP is the biggest threat to the Chinese people today. I think it's the biggest threat to Taiwan today.
Yeah.
And absolutely to America, because the Chinese Communist Party views America as its principal adversary, right? It understands that it needs to basically reduce America's power. They have a measure called comprehensive national power, right? And they measure, and America is the #1 in that measure.
Yeah.
And they measure their relationship with every other country and America using this measure. And they always want to either raise themselves up or see someone else being lowered, right? One or the other is fine, ideally both at the same time. And so it's this very zero-sum way of thinking where they truly, it sounds crazy in a way, but they want to rule the world. That doesn't mean they want to kill everybody necessarily. They just want compliant vassal states that will serve the Chinese Communist Party, that will serve the regime as the regime deems fit. So it's absolutely the biggest threat to America and frankly to everybody.
Many Taiwanese think organ harvesting is the fake news, right? Pro-CCP YouTubers, Taiwan pro-CCP YouTubers say, look, I'm traveling in China and I'm fine, I'm alive, right? So Western media is lying.
That's right.
So can you tell about this book?
In communist China, there's always what you call a black class, okay? The regime always picks some group or several groups of people that it marks as dark, as black, as kind of enemies. And so if you are in that group, and that could be any group, the very beginning with landowners, okay, because they wanted to take their land. What's very important to this is they also control all of the propaganda organs. Really, they call it media, but it's really propaganda. It's the messaging the regime wants to push out into the system. They push it out massively, okay? And actually, the reality is that propaganda works on some part of the population. Not everybody. Some people understand it's fake, but some people really believe it. And then other people don't know because they don't know what the truth is if they don't have access to free information through VPNs and through the Great Firewall of China. Okay? So this is kind of the setup. So there's these black classes, you know, in 1989, it was the students that wanted democracy, right? The regime said, well, the students attacked the soldiers, so the soldiers had to put them down, right? Like this crazy idea, crazy propaganda. But a lot of Chinese today, they don't even know, the young people, that there was a Tiananmen Square massacre, right? Because why? Because it's forbidden to talk about it. There's even more restrictions now. Even now, this was in 1989, are being put in to restrict the history of that, right? From being written. In 1999, now this is what's relevant to Kill to Order, okay? The new black class, that became Falun Gong practitioners, okay? This was a spiritual discipline. People were practicing truthfulness, compassion, tolerance. So I'll butcher this a little bit, but Zhen Shan Zhen. It was very grassroots, very hard for communists to understand because communists are very hierarchical. Everything, the party is supreme. The party's on top of everything, and everything has to kind of serve to that top pinnacle, right, of the Politburo Central Committee and the leader. So very grassroots movement, grows by word of mouth, people sharing with each other. Or not suddenly, but over time until the 90s, there's 1999, there is 70 to 100 million people, by government estimate, doing Falun Gong. The dictator at the time, Jiang Zemin, decides to crush it, okay? Doesn't mean kill everybody, okay? What it meant was put them into re-education, transformation. So whenever there is this black class that's marked, these people have to change their thinking, right? So they do terrible things to people to do that. If it's easy, some people will just say, yes, of course, I just follow the party. But Falun Gong practitioners, they were very resilient. They didn't want to submit that way, not because they were against the party even, They just were very serious about their beliefs and truthfulness, compassion, tolerance, right? So now this rule came into effect. They said all Falun Gong practitioners in the jails, in the re-education camps, in the labor camps, all of it, big system, they'll be considered suicide. Someone dies like Falun Gong, there'd be a suicide, right? It meant you can torture these people even to break them, to re-educate them, right? A crisis, right? Because so they put millions of people, maybe 1 million, maybe 2 million, we don't know how many, it's a state secret, but a huge number of people into the system. These people have been propagandized against. So, society has been told these people are bad, they're lesser than you. It's really propaganda right out of 1930s Germany. Really nasty stuff, okay? And this is what sets up for the kill to order situation, because some very evil person, and I have a theory who that was in the book, I write about this, I don't know for sure, but I make a good case, okay? Thought, I have a win-win situation where there's no morals, no moral boundary, okay? This person thought to themselves, I can eradicate Falun Gong, I can get rid of them, and I can also help build our transplant industry because that's a priority for the regime, right? And so they blood type, tissue type, and organ scan these people, and that create a database. Because in a normal situation, when someone is like here in America or somewhere, this is the way it's supposed to work, okay? Someone has a catastrophic accident, they have a car accident, brain dead, right? They basically, they're not coming back. An ethics team looks and says, okay, this person will not survive, but there's still circulation in the body, because you can't transplant from a completely no circulation body. The organs degrade very fast. So basically, you have to have that, and you have to have blood tissue match, because our bodies reject organs that are not ours, right? So we try to match them as close as possible. Only in China can you get a scheduled heart transplant in 2 weeks. 2 weeks, okay? We know a number of cases where someone has gotten a transplant. One of the original whistleblowers was like this, okay? One is scheduled, means the accident is they make the accident happen, so they kill the person, okay? And the second part is 2 weeks. Well, they already have a full database. So when someone pays 100,000, 200,000 to get that new heart, they already have the donor, not really a donor, prisoner of conscience, pre-matched. And they can ship and kill that person to order. That's why it's called kill to order, okay? So now your question, right? This sounds crazy, unbelievable. Wow.
Yeah.
How could this possibly, this is unbelievable, right? Show me the evidence, right? This is what, and actually what the CCP does, this is what's very interesting. They've never provided an explanation, because we know for a fact people can get organs fast. There were lots of people that did that. There's a whole lot of people that are incarcerated. We know that, okay? There's a paper in the American Journal of Transplantation titled Execution by Organ Procurement, okay? What it means is, it's basically, they looked at the Chinese transplant literature, and they found in the published Chinese transplant literature, in the methods sections, they looked through them, about 2,000 to 3,000 papers. And they found 70 cases in the research methods where someone had died by having their organs removed. It means that they were murdered by having their organs removed. And their only, the only real explanation for this is that it's so normal for them to do this that they forgot that you can't write that into public research methods. It's crazy, right? Like it's just, so, I mean, I could talk a lot about the evidence. There's actually a China tribunal that happened between late 2018 and 2020 that looked at all the evidence before 2020, and they found out very quick to people that are like a YouTuber that goes to China and says, hey, everything's great. Number one, the YouTuber is not a black class. YouTuber is actually a super, I don't know what you would call it, like a super class. Why? Because they're being used as a propaganda organ of the regime. They get treated like they go to really nice dinners. They see all the officials, right? Everything's great. They take them to the beautiful, well-developed places. They don't go and visit the 40% of Chinese that live deep below the poverty line. They don't meet those people. They don't meet the migrant field workers. They go to where the beautiful skyscrapers have been built. Yeah, those are real, right? They don't get taken to the forced labor camp or the re-education center or the black jail. Of course, unless they decide to report honestly, that's a different story, right? Term that Lenin used for these types of people, they want to believe. I think there's two groups. One is that are just gun for hire. Yep, I'll help you make the propaganda you need. Just give me the money and we're good. That's one option. The other option is what Lenin called useful idiots. Okay?
Useful idiot, yeah.
Because this is what people that want to believe that communism is great and it works so beautifully, it's so amazing, right? And they come and, of course, they're shown only the beautiful and amazing things, right? They don't show, like on the cover, the skulls and the bones that the city is built on, okay? Those two kinds, right? And it's sad to me. It's sad to me that people go and do this because of people like this kill to order keeps going, right? So I hope I answered your question.
And because more and more Chinese people also know about the situation with forced organ harvesting. Many of the parents in China, in modern China, are opposing blood sampling of their children, junior high or high school children.
If you're part of the super elite class in China, it's a very small group of people. We think it's about 11 million people who have access to the super elite healthcare system. That's how we kind of measure it. We think it's about 11 million red card holders, okay? Those people know that this is real, okay? Those people know because they have access to organs. And it's amazing. There was a hot mic moment, okay? Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un in Tiananmen Square. They're talking, they get caught on a hot mic by Chinese Central Television. I'll paraphrase what was said, okay? Xi Jinping says, when we're 70, we're just babies. Through continual organ transplantation, perhaps we can achieve immortality. What? Why is he saying that? And Xi says, our target age is 150 years. Okay, so this is a huge revelation, right? Because I knew that the Chinese super elites had a longevity program. It's called Project 981. Yeah. We have a long piece I wrote with one of our amazing journalists, Eva Fu, about this recent, like maybe a few months ago, right? And we know about forced organ harvesting, but I didn't realize in my mind that the forced organ harvesting was a centerpiece of this elite longevity project, right? So it's the availability of organs to the super elites is on demand from the system. That's a lot of power. That's a lot of life. Some estimates it's 10 years longer that they're living, right? It's astonishing. So that's one thing. Another data point, okay, is that in Xinjiang province in the northwest, the tragedy, right? Because 15 years, no one dealt with it when they were using Falun Gong practitioners, when they were growing this massive murder industry, okay? They added the Uyghur people, okay? Dehumanized them, struggled against them, added them to the system, okay? That's horrible. In Xinjiang, it's not just in the prisons, in the labor camps, that they're blood typing and tissue typing people, it's also in their homes, okay? So, and all of this, for most people, is actually kind of in the world of rumor, to be honest, okay? Because they don't have access to this system. Like most Chinese, aside from that small group of people that are super elite, they're never gonna get an organ from the forced organ harvesting system. Why would they? The regime doesn't care about their lives, right? These lives are just fodder. As long as the regime stays in power, you know, they're used. Of course, they have to keep them happy at some level because maybe they'll revolt against the regime, right? But it's all the survival and supremacy of the Communist Party is all that matters to them. So you kind of hear about it in the labor camps. They say, "Oh, we're going to harvest your organs," kind of as a threat, and people kind of believe it, but they kind of not sure. Right? And so it's the same with the blood typing. They've heard about what's happening in Xinjiang, right? About this people getting blood typed in their homes. It's kind of this rumor. Yeah, the regime can do this. Yes, they have this absolute power over the society. Yes, we live in this surveillance society. I suspect for the average Chinese, it's probably not a big issue because they're not it's not being done systematically. But for example, right now, we know that Christians are being put under more control. The Zion Church has been rolled up. The Catholic pastors are being restricted, okay? Like controls are being put on them. I'm seeing dehumanizing rhetoric. My good friend Bob Fu, okay, who runs China Aid, he's basically, he helps persecuted Christians in China. he's saying, yes, there's more of this rhetoric. So I would be watching out for example, Christians being blood typed and things like that, because usually this dehumanizing stuff comes before they start, kind of the atrocity part. And I can't, this is all a state secret. It's very hard to piece apart. This is why, I try to bring it all together, all the evidence that we do know. There's even a South Korean film crew that took undercover cameras and went to China, unbelievably, because there's a lot of this tourism from South Korea. And they were talking to people, yeah, we can get you organs fast. There's so much evidence around it. But I hope I answered your question properly around this blood typing of parents and so forth, yeah.
Is your book sell in Taiwan?
Very good question. So my publisher tells me there's 2 Taiwanese companies that are kind of want the rights to the book to have it in Chinese.
Oh.
So I don't know yet which one. I don't know how fast it will be, but we almost certainly it will be in Taiwan in Chinese. There's some other languages as well. I'm very open. If someone is interested, I would like to see it done quickly, obviously.
It's about Taiwan. Yeah. Taiwan is a front line against the CCP. Deepest infiltration. Okay. How can the world help us before the CCP use fakes to take our home?
Okay. The Chinese Communist Party really fears Taiwan. Both afraid of Taiwan, it hates Taiwan in some ways, and it really wants Taiwan really badly. So there's all these different emotions, okay? Why? Taiwan shows what the Chinese people can be when they're free. It's a picture for the world, right? Because one of the biggest pieces of propaganda the Chinese Communist Party has is that the Chinese people, they need the boot. They need the boot of the CCP. And Taiwan shows, hey, actually, no, we have one of the most robust democracies in the world. We do public vote counting. We're proud of our democracy. And a lot of people don't know this, but the per capita, right? The per capita GDP of Taiwan is 3 times that of China.
Yes.
Taiwan is much more economically successful actually than China for the average person, right? They don't have this massive underclass that the elites climb on top of. There's always, there is not everybody's the same, but it's that massive division that's in communist China doesn't exist. So yeah, absolutely Taiwan's the front line because the CCP wants to erase that symbol of Chinese freedom. It's a symbol, it's of course its own sovereign nation and so forth, but it's it's just always saying, hey guys, China can be a lot better. You don't need to be like this, right? Yeah. And they don't want the Chinese people reminded of that, right? So I think for the West or so forth, even just from that perspective, it's yeah, you want to help support the democracy. The big, and it's such an important, but symbolically also in the region, right? It's really, it's the beacon of light for the Chinese people in my mind, right?
Right.
Freedom of conscience. There's these, these what we call the First Amendment in America. Freedom of speech, freedom of belief, freedom of conscience. These are our core rights. These are the things we're in the First Amendment because we're protected from government taking those things away from us, right? That's the whole idea, right? It's our core rights. And Taiwan has decided, yeah, we love this. And wow, the Chinese people flourish when we have this. The CCP really doesn't like that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so